Putin is failing on all of his military strategic objectives.
When an animal is getting defeated in the fight, that is the moment he is most dangerous, because he starts acting not rationally but out of desperation. The moment of failure may become the moment of strike and dominance. Imagine how great it would be if Putin was failing on all of his strategic objectives. Do you think you know what all of his objectives are? Well, there are some people that do. Let's listen to the UK Admiral Radakin for just 1 minute, even less. 1 minute that it was enough to explain all of his Putin's objectives and failures on all of them. The question, though, I would ask you to think about while we are listening is why all of the officials are always dismissing all of the worries and tell us not to take the enemy or the situation seriously, like they have already resolved everything to the great advantage of the international community. And then, when we finish listening, we'll try to make some sense out of what was said.
Putin is failing on all of his military strategic objectives. He wanted to subjugate Ukraine. That's not going to happen. He wanted to take control of the capital. We saw that that was defeated earlier on. We saw that he wanted to weaken NATO. NATO is now much stronger, and we have Finland and Sweden joining. He wanted to break the international resolve. Well, actually, that's strengthened over this period, and he's under pressure. His problems are mounting. He's always had a problem in terms of crewing the equipment that he's got. He hasn't got sufficient manpower. His forces are thin on the ground. And we're also seeing a magnificent Ukrainian armed forces who've been courageous. They're fighting for their country.
Subjugate Ukraine, not going to happen. That is true. Putin wanted to subjugate Ukraine with his target of denazification and demilitarization. And considering the support from the international community, that task may not be achieved. The problem, though, that Admiral is not mentioning is that the strategic tasks may evolve or simply change based on the progress. This is like running a business. You start with a certain idea and targets, but as you go, you realize problems and new opportunities, and therefore you change your business objectives. And we can state today that there is some evolution that can be observed in the Eastern Europe. The longer the conflict in Ukraine takes, more ideas and historical imbalances start surfacing on the political level. I will mention a few, especially for those who do not follow the European affairs closely. Poland demands a reparation from Germany for 1.3 trillion euro for losses during World War II. There are some speculations that if they insist, Poland would have to return massive territories awarded to Poland from Germany under the terms of the Potsdam Agreement in 1947 for their losses in the World War II. Poland also eyes some Ukrainian lands that historically belonged to Poland. Romania and Hungary have their politicians calling for a revision of some Ukrainian territories that were historically part of their countries as well. But most of all, the Russians are loving all of that and laughing their asses out by creating more and more future maps of Ukraine and something like this. As we can see in these maps, Ukraine, as a result of all these demands from the countries around Ukraine, get reduced to a small area around Kyiv, and everything else is not Ukraine anymore. That may be far from truth, but it is a certain possibility.
He wanted to take control of the capital. We saw that that was defeated earlier on.
Take control of the capital? Defeated? Well, that's a pure speculation. We do not know if Putin wanted to take control of Kiev. I think if he did, he would have sent massive forces to Kiev. The actual operation in the outskirts of Kiev may have been a diversion. Well, most likely have been a diversion. Make it look like they want to occupy the capital, that will put Ukraine government attention to the attack, that will leave massive armed forces protecting Kiev, that will create panic in the city. And while that is happening around Kiev, Russian forces can easily invade Donbass and occupy vast territories in the east and south. Or maybe there were some other objectives. We would not know. But the diversion sounds like a more realistic scenario for the Kiev attack. What do you think?
We saw that he wanted to weaken NATO. NATO is now much stronger, and we have Finland and Sweden joining.
Weaken NATO? NATO much stronger with Finland and Sweden? Well, I don't even know where Admiral got this idea from. Weakening NATO is a tremendous task and was never on Putin's agenda. Why would he even think of weakening NATO? All he wanted was to not have NATO military bases in Ukraine, and it seems he made his point. As for Finland and Sweden, that is only in the making, with some problems and internal conflicts inside NATO.
He wanted to break the international resolve. Well, actually, that's strengthened over this period.
Break the international resolve? We are stronger now? Same as with weakening NATO. I don't think Putin even cared about international resolve when he started the invasion. He probably did not expect it to become that strong, but it was not his target at all.
And he's under pressure. His problems are mounting.
Putin is under pressure, problems are mounting. Well, can't the same be said about Ukraine, European countries, and the USA? Is this conflict just a walk in the park for them?
He's always had a problem in terms of crewing the equipment that he's got. He hasn't got sufficient manpower. His forces are thin on the ground.
That is right. There are problems with equipment and manpower and more. But that applies to both sides. Ukraine has lost a lot of men and a lot of equipment too. Let's not forget that Russia has a vast army, over 1 million trained troops and arms that it chose not to use yet. And Russia is already moving with a different approach, hitting infrastructure that is far from the battlefields. That may strain Ukraine forces and optimism while Moscow comes up with an adjustment to its strategy. And we already observe an adjustment to a strategy with the latest Putin's announcement of mobilizing 300,000 people from the civilians, or rather from the reserve, army reserve, into the fields of Ukraine. And this is just the beginning. We don't know how far he's going to go and how large this army of reservists will become over time. One more thought. In a fight, well, like a fight of two men, when one side is losing or failing, there are two possible scenarios. One, the losing man just gives up and admits his defeat. Another one, the losing man becomes embittered and even more fierce. When he feels pain and weakness, he will grab a stone, a pipe, a knife, and the fight won't be fair, and the stronger one won't necessarily win. The vile and the sneaky will win. So do you think Putin would give up and admit his defeat? Is he the man to change his decisions and his course of action? Everything until now was just a warm-up and enemies testing each other. Now is the time we will see the real Putin and how far he is willing to go. The point I'm trying to make here is, let's not underestimate Putin's force. He is not the one to change his decisions, and let's not simply tell everyone that he is failing and there is nothing to worry about, because there is a lot to worry about, and just one successful Ukrainian counteroffensive does not win the war, even if it changes the disposition. Give me your opinion. Good day.